Hi, this is Esther with Discover Your Origins. In this video, I'm going to talk about some research I did at the Family Search Library in Salt Lake City. I was able to travel there recently and do some work looking at the Langfords, and I found some more information, so I wanted to share. This is a picture of the workstation that I used. You can see the microfilm reader there on the left. These are very different from what they used to have. The library has been remodeled if you haven't been there in a few years. And these workstations are huge. They give you so much room to work and multiple screens. And so it was really nice. And another thing that was really cool is they give you a thumb drive, a 16 gigabyte thumb drive, so you can download the images that you're looking at on the microfilm. And you don't have to take it to a special film copy machine to print out the images or anything. So really nice. FamilySearch does still have microfilms. These are restricted in some way. All the films I think have been digitized, but some of these films have other restrictions from the record custodian. And so you still have to go and actually look at the physical films, even though they've been digitized. And hopefully FamilySearch will renegotiate some of their contracts to make them available online and visible. But until then, this is what you have to do. So let me show you the film that I looked at. It was this one, Langfords in America by George Shealy Langford. And most of the content of the book, it does start with the earliest Langfords that he could find and down through James Langford and Nancy Bell and his descendants. And then George Langford here is specifically descended from John James Langford, which I haven't shown on camera, but there's been quite a lot done on that particular branch of the James Langford family. One thing I regret, because I was in a hurry when I was looking at this film, is that I did not get the bibliography. So this would be all of his sources. I think I didn't look at it, so I can't say for sure. And so next time I go back, I'm going to make sure and get those pages so I can see what his sources are and try to find them again and link them to the people mentioned in the book that I've been working on, so that I can just fully flesh out the profiles in FamilySearch and have all the sources. Because when I started this project, very few of the Langford children, for James Langford and Nancy Bell, had any sources at all. One thing this book also did was confirm, which I also suspected, that most of the information that is in FamilySearch probably came from this book. And so it's really good to be able to look at that, confirm it, double check, and then add the book as a source to the people on FamilySearch. So one of the people I want to revisit in this video is Nancy Langford. And we'll just scroll down and do a recap. She's the daughter of James Langford and Nancy Bell. And when I started, she had no sources, but she was connected to this Tyre Snellgrove. So we'll go look at Tyre here. And the book confirmed that Tyre died in 1850. Now, I did find a Tyre in the 1850 census, and he's not with Nancy. And so I'm not 100% sure that it's actually the same Tyre, although I think it is, because it's an unusual name, and there weren't very many other men named Tyre. There were some that were older and some that were younger, but none of that fit this profile. And so this information that I have here, where he dies in 1850, is probably right. I hope I can find the actual sources in the book when I go back on that. And also, I had guessed that Tyre was a son of John Snellgrove and Axa Gilbert. And George Shealy Langford also agrees that he is the son. And so that was really good that I was able to confirm that I had guessed correctly. Also, the book confirmed that Tyre and Nancy had the two daughters, Martha Ann and Grace Ann. And I always was a little conflicted that they were both daughters, because they both have the middle name of Ann. But apparently they did. So I guessed right there as well. And it's really good that I've been cleaning this up and getting it correct in FamilySearch, because when people come back and they look at the Langford family, it will be better than it was. Okay, so going back to Nancy, I had previously theorized that Nancy had died in 1850 as well because she's not in the 1850 census with Tyre. However, George Shealy Langford says that Nancy Langford remarried after Tyre dies to a William Hip. This becomes important because we'll go to Grace's children here. So Grace Ann Snellgrove had two sons, John Edmund Shealy and James William Shealy. And if we go to John's page here and we'll look at his sources, the 1870 census. John Shealy and his brother, James, are living with Nancy Hip. Well, come to find out that Nancy Hip and Nancy Langford are the same person. Now, Nancy Hip is probably widowed in 1870. According to George Shealy Langford, Nancy Langford Snellgrove remarried to William Hip in 1854. But she's alone by 1870, so she may have become a widow again, which is entirely possible because that time span, 1854 to 1870, there was a civil war and there were a lot of people that died. So she may have become a widow for a second time. But in 1870, she's living by herself on a farm. It says that she's a farmer, so let me find her on here. Here she is, Nancy Langford, farmer. So she's still running the farm, whether it's from her first husband or her second husband, with the two boys that are her grandsons, and they are working on the farm with her. So we know that she's alive in 1870. However, if we look at the 1880 census, and I talked about this previously, John is living with extended family. So Nancy is not there anymore. So if we go and look, so here he is, John Edmund Shealy, age 22, farmer, and Nancy is not there. These other people that he's with, this household that he's living in, are cousins, aunts, uncles, their neighbors with other relatives. This John W. Hare is a relative. Here's William Shealy. So James William is right here. And he's also working on a farm. So these poor boys became orphans. So their father dies in the Civil War. Their mother is deceased by 1870. Their grandmother has taken them in. And then grandma probably dies. And the boys end up with this extended family. Okay, so what to do about Nancy Langford here? So I did update her death that it was probably after 1870. And if we look at her age, she would have been 65 in 1870. So it would not be outside the realm of possibility for her to be deceased by 1880. But we don't have a second husband here at all. And I wanted to try and add William Hip, who is mentioned in the book. All I have is his name. I don't know anything else about him. But I wanted to try and add a second spouse because that helps clarify the connections between Nancy Hip and Nancy Langford. And so I did a search in the census records, and I found this William Hip. This is his FamilySearch profile. But I do have the actual census record that we could look at that this is based on. And this William Hip seems to fit the profile. He's about the right age. This says he was born about 1810, which is about the same age as Nancy Langford. And he's living in Newberry County, South Carolina, which is a neighboring county to Lexington. And we can actually go and look at this on a map to just see how close they were. So to do that, I like to go to the FamilySearch Research Wiki. So I'm going to open this in a new tab. And we can just do a search for South Carolina genealogy. All right, so here's the map for South Carolina. So most of the Langfords lived in Lexington County. Some of them were in Saluda, and then of course some extended family is in Edgefield. We do have a few in Aiken and Orangeburg. So they were pretty much in the west central part of South Carolina, mostly centered around Lexington and then a few of these outlying areas. But there's a river that goes between the Saluda, Lexington, and Newberry County area, and I suspect this William Hipp was living on the other side of the river in Newberry County, but I don't know for sure. I'm just guessing. But this census record here seems to fit, and he's married in 1850 to a Martha, I believe. We'll look a little bit closer here. Okay, so William is married to a Mary. He's in the household of George Hipp. So the 1850 census is arranged by the head of household is usually listed first, followed by a wife, and then the children, oldest to youngest. This one's a little weird because we've got a George Hipp and a Martha, age 30 and 26, followed by William and a Mary. And William is older, and it appears that he is in the household with George. And then there are these children. So are these children of George or are they children of William? I'm theorizing that they're children of William because if there were children for George and Martha, they would be under them and then William and Mary. Regardless, they appear to be at the same farm in the same location because they're enumerated in the same household. So this William is a potential candidate. It's possible that Mary could have died and William remarried, but these children are not listed with Nancy in 1870. Of course, the war happened. There could have been some children died, and this is 20 years later, so a lot of these children are going to be on their own. Going back to William. So I actually added William and Mary and their children to FamilySearch because they weren't in there. And there's only the one source right now. I've tried searching for some other records. I've tried looking to see if William possibly served in the Civil War. There are some William Hipps. They don't quite match this guy. And so he's a bit of a mystery at this point. And I don't feel comfortable yet without some other kind of correlation of tying this William Hipp to Nancy Langford. So in the meantime, I am going to add an alternate name for Nancy Langford, and we'll put in Nancy Hipp. And then the reason will be, according to George Shealy Langford, Nancy remarried to a William Hipp. And I actually want to snag the ID number here and put it in my reason. So that in the future, if someone wants to look and at this William Hipp that I've created, and if they agree, then they can add him as a spouse and hopefully prevent duplicates in the future. We'll see. But let's save that. Okay, so that adds that. One other thing I've been doing as I have gone through the book and the images that I had downloaded is I did create a citation. So this citation here is the book. So that's the full title with a link. And then I have some notes and why I've added this. And so here in the reason to attach the source, I just say there's a biography on page 120 for Nancy. It confirms the marriage and her children, and then that she remarried. And so I've been going through the Langfords and adding that as a citation where I can match up the information. This has added another source record to Nancy Langford, where when I started, she had nothing. So that is really good that I'm able to now kind of clean up this family and flesh out the profiles and add sources. And once I get the bibliography information from that book, hopefully I can add a few more. I hope that was helpful to be able to see what research you can do in person at the FamilySearch Library and how it can help you find out more about your family, and also how to add it as a source and to do some analysis. So anyway, hope that was helpful. We'll see you next time.